All right, what's up, my mathletes? That's right, Miss Muscarella coming at you. And in this video, we're going to take a look at solving and graphing absolute value inequalities. So let's go ahead and write down these two problems here into your notes. So we're going to do two things. We're going to solve them, and then we're going to graph them. After we solve and graph, then we're going to write the solution using interval notation as well as set builder. So here are our two problems. Now, I'm going to call the absolute value piece the blob, right? So this piece right here in example number 6 and this piece right there, that is the part that we want to isolate. So this is going to be very, very straightforward, solving one step at a time. So just like you would an equation, you'll start by working from the outside to the inside of that blob. So outside, that first thing we're going to do is we're going to move that -2 over. And when you do that, you'll end up with 5 times the absolute value of -9b minus 1 is greater than, when you add 2 to both sides, you get 50. Now, nextly, we'll divide both sides by 5, so you get -9b minus 1. The absolute value of that is greater than 10. From here, now is the time when we take a look at our absolute value and our inequality symbol. So I want the absolute value of something to be greater than 10. So that piece could be like 11 or 12. Or 13, or 14. Like, all those values are greater than 10. But I could also have those same values be less than -10. Because the absolute value of a -11, or the absolute value of -12, or the absolute value of -13 is also greater than 10. So when we do this, there's going to be a couple of things as we get ready for this. So when you have the greater symbol, when you have the greater symbol, you're going to set this up. So -9b minus 1, that piece could be less than -10, or -9b minus 1 is going to be greater than 10. So those are going to be the two separate inequalities that we will find. So when you look at this, you want to notice when you get the blob, this piece right here, the absolute value part by itself, you're going to split this. You're going to split this into two separate problems. It's going to be an OR problem. Now, from here, you will solve this just like you would any other type of problem. So when you move the 1 over, you'll get -9b is less than -9. Now, here's where we got to remember some algebra rules here. So you'll get b is greater than, because you have to flip the sign, of greater than 1. So that's one option. Or when you move the 1 over on the piece that's on the right, you'll have -9b is greater than, if you add 1, you get 11. So b, and then we have to switch the symbol again. B is going to be greater, or I'm sorry, less than -11 over 9. Now, if that was -9 over 9, that'd be -1. So it's just a little bit less than -1. Now, as you set these up, as you set this up, what I want you to do, so we just solved it. Now we're gonna graph it. So we're gonna have this symbol right here, our little number line. We're gonna have 0 here, and we're gonna put 1 right here, and -11, 9. So we're gonna put over on this side, -11 over 9. So this symbol, the absolute value symbol, that tells you above each one of these, we're going to put open dots. So above -11 nines and above 1, we'll put an open dot. Now, think about this for a second. If b has to be greater than -1, that means we're going to shade our line this way. Boom. Because all the numbers on that side are greater than 1. Now, similarly, if we want our b's to be less than -11 nines, all the numbers that are on this side of the number line, that value of x, are going to be smaller than -11 nines. So that's that piece right there. So that's the first part, is solving it and graphing it. So when we solve it, we'll get the solution b is greater than 1, or b could be less than -11 over 9. Now, I like to look at the graph to then set up the interval notation. So the solution using interval notation. So let's go ahead and write this down. So interval notation is going to be looking like this. Now this is why I like the graph, because from the graph, I'm going to go from left to right. So as we do that, we're going to start with negative infinity, and we're going to go all the way into that value, negative 11 over 9. Now the infinity or negative infinity, that will always get a soft bracket. However, we have to look at either one or two things. We could look at the inequality symbol, which is greater than or less than. We could look at the whole, the dot that is there. So since that is an open dot, we would put a soft bracket. So that's one thing. So we'd put negative infinity, negative 11 ninths. Then we put this little U symbol there. That means or. Then the other part that is going to be the solution is going to be from 1 all the way to the right. And again, soft brackets around both of those. So that is going to be that piece right there using interval notation. Now with set notation, so set notation is going to look a little bit different. And when you write down the set notation, you will solve that, or you'll notate that a little bit differently. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to put this brace. Then you're going to have x. Now different teachers will kind of have some different things there. So x can be an element of all real numbers. So you're going to have that piece there to start with. And then you're going to draw this bar. So it's kind of like half of an absolute value bar. So you're going to have that piece next. So x is an element of all real numbers. And then, more or less, we're going to write in order the two pieces that we had. So we're going to have b is less than, so b is less than negative 11 over 9, or b is greater than 1. And then we'll put a nice little curly bracket to close that. So that order, b is less than negative 11 9. So the part that's on the left, that piece is going to go first, and the part that's on the right will go second. All right, so that'll be the set notation for that. And that kind of goes along with, this piece right here is on the right, and this piece right here is on the left. So those kind of pieces go together when you write your interval and set notation. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at example number 7 here. And again, we want to isolate the blob. So first thing, we're going to add the 6 to the other side. So we're going to have 3 times the absolute value of 1 minus 4n is less than or equal to 117. Now I know 3 is going to go on 117. So here's a little math fact for you in case you don't recall it. If you take the digits of 117, 1 plus 1 plus 7, and add them up, you get 9. And I know 3 goes into 9. Therefore, 3 is going to go in 117. So when we do that calculation, we'll get 1 minus 4n. The absolute value of that is going to be less than or equal to, 3 goes into that 39 times from here. And there's a couple different ways teachers will show you. I'll show you one way, and if you have another way that does it where you show all of your steps correctly, that's cool. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. So what you're going to do, when you have the less than equal to symbol, or maybe the less than symbol too, you're going to take that negative 39. You're going to put it there, and you're going to put positive 39 there. In the middle is going to go the 1 minus 4n. Then the next thing you'll do is you're going to keep the signs both pointed in the same direction. So that's your setup. So the direction of this symbol right here, they're both going to be the same when you set it up. Now I'm thinking ahead here a little bit, and I know I'm going to end up flipping those, because if I look at a constant in front of the variable, that's going to be negative. So that's going to end up switching some things around a little bit. But first, let's take the 1. We're going to subtract that on both sides. So I'm going to get negative 40 over on the left. And then if I have less than equal to, and then if I subtract 1 from 39, I'll get 38 on the right. Then I'm going to keep my symbols the same, and in the middle, I'm going to have negative 4n. And again, this is where you got to be careful, because when you divide both sides by a negative, you're going to have to flip the inequality symbols. All right, then we got to do something else after this. So when I divide both sides by negative 4, I'm going to have 10 on the left side, and then on the right side, I'm going to have 38 over 4, negative 38 over 4, but I've got to reduce that. So let's just kind of think about that for a second. So 38 over 4, that it would, and I have a negative sign, so it's going to be negative 19 over 2. So that's what that is going to end up being here on the right side. So negative 19 over 2. Now, what I do next is then I have to write this in numerical order. So the way that I would do this, when you have the smaller value on the right side, you got to flip everything around. So negative 19 over 2, and then flip the inequality symbols. and then put the 10 on the right side. So that is going to be how you would notate that. So that piece of it right there, that's what you do. So negative 19 over 2. Now, if it was negative 20 over 2, that'd be negative 10. However, this is a little bit bigger than negative 10. So when I write this, when I go to graph this, right, so I'm going to have 0 in the middle, I'll have 10 over here, and I'll have negative 19 over 2 on that side. There's going to be a couple things I'm going to pay attention to. One is the inequality symbol, so I'll have solid dot right there and a solid dot right there above 10. Now the n is in between these two, so boom, there you go. You just draw the line right there, that's it. That's all you got to do. Now from here, let's go ahead and write the interval notation for it. So I'm just going to abbreviate that int, and then notation. And the interval notation, when we write that, is going to be negative 19 over 2 and then 10. Now the inequality symbol will dictate whether I have hard or soft brackets. Since this includes the values, I'll have a hard bracket around each of those. When I write it in set notation, so set notation is going to look a little bit differently. So that set notation, right, you're just going to go ahead and write, and this is going to be, oh, I think I made this mistake on the other one. Yeah, I did, so we're going to fix that in a minute. Now, here's a common thing, because we always use x a lot, but my variable right here is n. So when we go to write this, we're going to start out with n, and it's an element of all real numbers. And our little brace right there, and our absolute value bar. And then you take this absolute, this expression right here, and you're just going to rewrite that whole thing right down in there. So you're going to write down, negative 19 over 2 is less than equal to n is less than equal to 10. And then put our brace on there. So that's how you are going to notate that. So let's go back here and fix this. Now, notice, I almost got it right, but I would have made a mistake there because this guy, instead of being x right here, is an element of all real numbers. The variable that was used was b, so I got to keep that as a b right there. So if this were a quiz, let's go ahead and get this some points added in here. So here's where your points would be. So be sure you kind of do this. The first thing would come from isolating the absolute value inequality. Then the second thing is going to come from the correct setup and then your solution. So when you get down to your solutions, that'll be worth a point. Your graph is going to be worth a point. And then the interval notation and set notation will each be worth a point. You got to be careful on that. Don't make the Musky mistake there. Be sure that you use the correct variable when you write the set notation. And then similarly on the other problem, now this one had a little bit more work in here, right? So of course you're going to isolate the absolute value inequality. And then when you go to solve that, so your steps along the way, you want to get down to this piece right here, but your final piece, you want to make sure that you do flip everything around and write that accordingly. Then your graph will be worth, a point, and then of course your interval and set notation with the correct variable will be your other point. All right, so that's it for this video. Thank you guys. I know this one was a little bit longer. Appreciate you hanging in there, watching this one. Take your time, watch your variables, and as always, make today a great day. There's simply no good reason not to. Catch you later. Peace out, Cub Scout.